So Pokemon Presents just happened, and they dropped a game that some people were speculating on being a possibility, but I don't think anybody really knew, and we certainly didn't know the name of it. It's Pokémon Champions. And basically everyone is saying right now that this is Pokemon Showdown, but official. And that very well might be the case. The trailer honestly doesn't reveal a ton, but it reveals certain things that do imply that that's very possible. The main thing that we see featured is a Charizard in its mega form, one of its mega forms, versus a Dondozo who is using Terra Water. So that's interesting because those two mechanics, one being an older mechanic that is supposed to be returning, being Mega, and Terra being the current mechanic, obviously they've never overlapped in a way where someone could battle them legitimately. So in the trailer, they basically go on to say that you will now be able to battle with different Pokemon that you've had from different time frames, kind of implying that we could be having a game where we're using more Pokemon than we have before, and where we will be using different mechanics that we've had in the past. And some people are speculating that this could be like we have every single Pokemon and we have every single battle gimmick that we've ever had. And some people are basically just saying that this is just going to be like a showdown thing. But truth be told, the trailer itself, there's still a lot of questions that we need answered. So nowhere in the trailer does it say that this will be like Showdown in the case of it being like a simulator where you'll be able to create any Pokemon that you want to. And they do actually say some things that could mean the opposite. They don't flat out say it one way or the other. They say that you can connect Pokemon Champions to Pokemon Home and use your Pokemon from Pokemon Home so that you aren't limited to the Pokemon that you have in Pokemon Champions. So I could take that two different ways. That kind of sounds like there are Pokemon you'll have access to in Pokemon Champions. And if you don't want to be limited by those Pokemon, then you can use your Pokemon in Pokemon Home. That might also just mean that you can make any Pokemon you want in Pokemon Champions like you can in Showdown, but you will have access to your Pokemon in Pokemon Home too, in case you do want to use your actual Pokemon. And historically, if we think about Pokemon Champions as a continuation from the Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Battle Revolution games, those games had rental Pokemon. So if they continue in that direction, they would still be kind of doing everything that they're saying they're going to do in the trailer. It would still open up the game to more people than ever before, just like they're saying in the trailer, because this is also going to be on mobile. And you would just be limited to rental Pokemon essentially. So is that what they're saying? I don't know. They don't. We need that answer. We need that answered before we can really know exactly what Champions is and what it's going to be like. They may also have limited rental teams and give you options to do like using rental codes, like how we have in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and we also had in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So that would open things up quite a bit for people if they did just have the rental teams. But they very well may have, just like in Pokemon Showdown, a way to create teams and test out teams and have any Pokemon that you want. I would say the biggest thing that is pushing in that direction, and again, it's really not clear in the trailer which way they're going with this, but the biggest thing is that in Pokemon Home, you can't have items equipped. So you would need something in Pokemon Champions that did make that decision for you, or the ability to equip and modify your team. So does that mean that you can just completely redo the EVs and IVs on the Pokemon? Or are you just like choosing what items are equipped? Again, if we go historical, if we look into the historical information we have on past games, Pokemon Battle Revolution, going off of memory, which I have played that game, I'm pretty sure they basically just used the Pokemon that were in your boxes, and if the Pokemon had items equipped, then it would use those items in the game. Now Pokemon Stadium, that I have played very recently, and this would be Stadium 2 because items didn't exist in Gen 1, but in Stadium 2, it does the same thing. It basically pulls the Pokemon right off of the Game Boy cart, and if they had an item, then it can use the item, and then there's also an option to change the item on the Pokemon based on a few limited options that Pokemon Stadium offers, like some berries and stuff like that. So that kind of goes both directions, I guess. Obviously, you wouldn't want to use your Pokemon from Pokemon Home if you're trying to play competitively and if they didn't have items. So there has to be a way to equip items to your Pokemon, meaning that there's some level of altering the Pokemon in some way, not the Pokemon itself, but if they're going to allow you to equip any item that you want and they're going to offer that to you in Pokemon Champions, it's not that far-fetched to think that they're going to let you kind of modify your Pokemon altogether. And if they're going to let you modify your Pokemon altogether, then it's not that crazy to think that they would just let you kind of do this Pokemon Showdown style where you will just choose and pick whatever Pokemon that you want. So either way, the game footage that they showed looked really good. I think that just the idea of this having access to mobile is going to be pretty huge. And even if it's just rentals with the option of, using people's rental codes, that's already pretty big online. As someone who does, make YouTube videos and offers rental codes to people, I think that's something that people are very interested in. And I'm really excited to see where this goes, and really excited to see how it kind of weaves into Pokemon games moving forward. The last thing that I'll say is that I think this game, again, it doesn't say one way or the other, but it looks like to me this game is probably going to be a big deal next year or towards the end of this year. And usually Pokemon games come out every 3 years. If that trend were to follow, then we would get Gen 10 like the early next year. But Pokemon's 30th anniversary doesn't happen until the year afterward. So I think the idea here, and probably part of the reason why we're going to get this game the way we're getting it, is that we will get Gen 10 2 years from now, and then Scarlet and Violet will finish out its last year coming up for 2025. And then to kind of keep things fresh, because trying to play Scarlet and Violet with the Pokemon that we have access to now for another 2 years would probably be really pushing it. To keep things fresh, we'll probably move to Champions the year after that. And then from there, I'm not sure what they'll do, especially if Champions is very popular. But hypothetically, we would have Champions for 2026, and then we would get Gen 10 that next year. So it's like, are we going to have a ranked in-game ranked ladder for Gen 10, or is Gen 10 going to be just a kind of like solo game to play, and then Champions will be the place that you battle still? It's a good question. For me, I will say that I do like Pokemon games quite a bit, but what really brought me back into playing them, like as often as I do, is the in-game ladder. So I would still buy the Gen 10 games, but I wouldn't have nearly as many hours on them. I would have all of the hours that I put into these games, especially if I didn't have to make my teams or anything, would just be funneled in Champions for sure. So I'm really interested to see how this how the relationship between the two games will function if you can just make any Pokemon that you want in Champions to battle with. And with that, I would like to know what you guys think, because I don't think anyone has any official answers, and even the trailer didn't give us too many answers. So let me know what you guys think is going to happen. And, you know, if we hear any updates in a major way, maybe I'll make another video. But at the very least, I will keep everyone up to date with what I'm hearing in the community tab. So with that, VGC Mike out. Happy battling.